For 15 years, I've worked the night shift as a toll booth operator on Interstate 94, just outside the stretch known as Exit 47, near the fog-laced foothills of northern Wisconsin. Locals call it the Mourner's Road. People talk. They always do. There's no shortage of ghost stories, highway legends, and trucker myths attached to this exit. Some say a woman in white wanders the asphalt. Others talk about phantom children, fog that whispers, or vehicles that vanish mid-drive. I'd always brushed it off: urban legends, late-night boredom, or truckers high on energy drinks and sleep deprivation. Until last week. That was when I started hearing the knocking. It was a Wednesday. Cold. The kind of Midwest cold that claws at your bones even inside the booth. I had the little heater running, coffee in a metal flask, and all 6 monitors flickering grainy black and white surveillance feeds. Most of the time, those screens are just static and occasional glimpses of headlights. Around 2:45 a.m., the road was dead quiet. No trucks. No cars. Not even the hum of passing wind. I was filling out the daily log, mind half asleep, when something odd happened. Out of the corner of my eye, on monitor 3, facing the southbound lane, I noticed a black sedan. It wasn't moving, just sitting there on the shoulder. Headlights off. No hazard blinkers. I blinked, leaned in. The driver's side door was open. Fog was gathering unnaturally thick around it, like the mist was feeding on the metal. My stomach twisted. I reached for the mic to announce over the PA system, something I hadn't done in months. "Sir or ma'am, if you need assistance, please step toward the booth." No response. The car didn't move, and then the door slowly creaked shut on its own. No one inside. At least no one I could see. The next moment, a sharp, metallic knock hit the side of my toll booth. Startled, I jumped and spilled coffee across my report book. 3 knocks. Precise. Heavy. I turned quickly. No one. The booth was surrounded by floodlights. Nothing could get close without casting a shadow. But there were no shadows. No footprints in the snow outside. Not even a tire skid from a vehicle. I opened the booth door hesitantly, stepping out into the bitter night. All I saw was thick fog slithering across the road. And the smell. God, that smell. It hit me like a wall, wet copper mixed with something foul. Like rotting meat dipped in kerosene. I gagged, stumbling back into the booth. I shut the door, locked it, and turned on the emergency desk lamp. The smell faded, almost as if the door held it out. The screens were quiet again. The sedan was gone. Morning came, and I went home to our small rented house on the outskirts of town. My wife, Lonnie, greeted me in the kitchen, her arms wrapped around a warm mug of chamomile. Her smile faded the moment she saw my face. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said. I wanted to tell her. I really did. But how do you explain something like that without sounding crazy? So I just muttered, "Long night." She nodded slowly. "I keep telling you, maybe it's time to quit the booth, Raphael. You've done your part. Go back to maintenance. Or work days again." "I'm fine," I lied. She made eggs and hash browns. I barely touched it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night kept replaying in my mind. The car, the fog, the knock. And most of all, that feeling, like something had been watching me the whole time. 2 nights later, it happened again. Same shift. Same hour. Except this time, there was a child on the monitor. He was maybe 6 or 7, wearing a puffy winter jacket. He stood alone in the middle of the northbound lane, directly in front of the booth, staring at the camera. Not moving. Not blinking. Just staring. I grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, this is Post 47. Do you copy?" Crackling. Static. Child on the road. I repeat, child on the road. Mile marker 212. I need State Patrol, immediate check. No reply. When I looked back at the monitor, the child was gone. The truck came roaring in just minutes later. A red Freightliner, blaring its horn as it swerved violently, tires screeching against blacktop. It came to a stop just past the booth. The driver jumped out, pale and shaking. There was a kid on the road. I swear to God, man, I almost hit him. He looked like he'd seen death. I asked him where he saw the child. He pointed right at the same camera's blind spot. I didn't tell him what I'd seen. I just nodded, took his name down, and logged it as pedestrian near roadway, the standard code. But in my gut, I knew this wasn't normal. Something had taken an interest in me. That night, I didn't sleep. And when I closed my eyes, I kept seeing the boy's face. Or rather, the lack of it. No eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, pale surface. Like someone had carved out the humanity from his skull. I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Every time I shut my eyes, that boy appeared, faceless, still and silent, standing in the middle of the highway, bathed in flickering fog. The blank canvas of his head followed me like a second shadow. No features, yet every inch of my being screamed that he was watching me. I tried to tell myself I was hallucinating. Maybe burnout, sleep deprivation, or one of those late-night brain tricks your mind plays on you when the world is too quiet. But I've worked this shift for 15 years. I've been tired, bored, angry, and numb. But I've never been scared like this. Lonnie noticed. Of course she did. "You've got to stop this, Moss," she said, gently running her fingers through my hair one morning as I sat slumped at the dining table. "Whatever's happening out there, don't let it follow you home." I nodded, but it was already too late. That Friday, I returned to the booth just after 11 p.m. The snow was lighter, the sky unusually clear, and a full moon glowed like a pale eye above the hills. For the first few hours, everything was normal. A few trucks passed. I logged their license plates, monitored the screens, kept the heater humming. Around 2:30 a.m., the fog returned all at once. Not gradually, just suddenly there, like someone had dropped a curtain around the road. Visibility dropped to a few feet. I checked all 6 CCTV monitors. Static crept in on 2 of them. I flicked on the thermal cam installed last year by the Department of Transportation. Nothing but cold shapes. No movement. Then, the knocking started again. Louder than last time. Not 3 taps. This time, it was 5, rapid and desperate, like fists slamming against the steel wall. I froze. My fingers hovered above the radio mic. But deep down, I knew no one would answer. Not tonight. I stood slowly, flashlight in hand, and opened the door. The air outside was thick and wrong. You could feel it. It pressed against your skin like a wet cloth. And the smell, oh God, that same smell, rotten metal, decay, like burnt meat soaking in stagnant water. No one was there. But then I saw it. Just beyond the edge of the booth light, maybe 20 feet away, something was crouched near the pavement. I squinted. A child's body, curled up, rocking gently. "Hey!" I called, instinct kicking in. It didn't move. I stepped closer, just 1 foot past the booth's light. And then the boy stood up. Only it wasn't a boy. Not really. He stood with a jerk, like a puppet being yanked by invisible strings. His limbs were slightly too long. His fingers were twitching. And where a face should be, there was only smooth, glistening skin. Blank and slick like wax. Then he began walking toward me, slowly, deliberately, like he already knew I wouldn't run. I stumbled back into the booth and slammed the door shut, heart slamming against my ribs like a caged bird. The boy didn't follow. He just stopped at the edge of the light, and then vanished. Not walked away. Not ducked into the fog. Vanished. At 4 a.m., Mr. White, the day supervisor, came by to check the booth and hand off my replacement. "You okay, Raphael?" he asked, noticing my pale face and trembling hands. "There was a kid here. Or something that looked like a kid," I said. "No face. No footprints. No heat signature." And it knocked again. He looked at me for a long time, then gave a slow, tired sigh. "You ever heard about the Midnight Passenger?" he asked. "No," I said. They say he's not from this world. Spirit, a shadow, whatever, shows up on lonely highways around here. Especially toll gates like this. Takes the shape of a kid. Or something you'd feel bad running from. But if you open your door for him, he paused. You don't go home the same. I asked why no one ever warned me. He just shrugged. We try not to talk about it too much. Some things feed on attention. That line stayed with me. Feed on attention. The next night, I brought a small Quran with me. I wasn't always a practicing Muslim. I used to pray once in a while, fast during Ramadan, but nothing consistent. But now, I needed something, anything, to anchor me. I cleaned a small corner of the booth, laid out a folded towel. I prayed 2 rakats and asked Allah to protect me from the unseen. Then I sat at my station, Quran beside me, heart thumping but focused. For a few hours, nothing happened. Then, exactly at 3 a.m., the fog rolled back in. The sedan returned. Same black frame. Same dead headlights. It stopped in the same place on monitor 3. But this time, the passenger door opened. And from inside, a second child stepped out. This one was taller, older, but still faceless. He stood beside the car and pointed directly at the camera. And then he smiled. Even with no face, I felt the smile. It wasn't warm. It was like a cold hand curling around my throat. I whispered Ayat al-Kursi under my breath. The screen blinked, and the car was gone. By the end of the week, I'd stopped talking to anyone about it. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how. How do you describe horror that doesn't follow rules? That doesn't make noise, doesn't bleed, doesn't breathe, but makes you afraid to close your eyes? I began to wonder, was I seeing ghosts? Or was something trying to break through? Whatever it was, I wasn't ready for what came next. Because next time, it came inside. After the second child appeared, I thought I'd seen the worst of it. But I was wrong. That night, I stayed late in the booth even after my shift ended, just staring at the static-filled monitors, Quran pressed tightly to my chest. My hands were cold and numb, yet drenched in sweat. My breath came in shallow bursts, like I was breathing someone else's air. It wasn't fear anymore. It was dread, like something was counting down toward a moment I couldn't escape. At home, Lonnie noticed the tremor in my hands as I tried to sip water. She took the glass from me and knelt beside my chair. "Mas, this place, it's doing something to you." "I know," I whispered. "Then stop going back." I didn't answer, but I was already hearing the knock again. Not outside this time, inside my mind. That cold, rhythmic thud, thud, thud. 3 times. Then silence. Then 5 more. Always the same. Saturday night. I arrived at the booth around 10:30, earlier than usual. I brought more than my Quran this time. I brought salt, a handheld taser, and a small pendant with a Quranic verse inscribed on it that my grandfather had given me years ago. I didn't believe in superstition, but this wasn't superstition anymore. It was survival. For the first 2 hours, everything was still. The fog was thin. Traffic light. But then, at 1:47 a.m., the power blinked. Just for a second. The monitors cut out. The lights inside the booth dimmed. The heater died. Everything went silent. When power returned, only one camera came back. Monitor 6, the one facing directly in front of the booth. And on it, someone was standing right outside. A child? It was a man this time. Slender, wearing a dark coat, back turned to the booth, just standing, unmoving. His outline was oddly sharp in the fog. Like the fog itself was trying to keep away from him. I leaned forward, unable to look away. The static on the other monitors crackled louder, filling the booth with a sound like whispers through broken teeth. Then the figure turned. His face was blank, but his eyes were wide open. Human eyes. Bloodshot. Terrified. As if they were screaming without sound. And suddenly, he was gone. Not on the screen, but in front of me. I spun around. The booth was empty, or so I thought. I turned back to the monitors, hand trembling as I reached for the intercom mic, when the knock came again. Not outside. From inside the booth. Right behind me. 3 knocks on the steel wall inside the booth. That's not possible. There's no crawl space. No maintenance duct. Nothing. I spun around. There was no one there. But the lights above flickered violently. And the air turned cold, freezing, like the dead of a Wisconsin winter had suddenly broken into the room. And then I saw the handprint. It was smeared across the inside of the plexiglass window. Well, child-sized, but black, like someone had pressed charcoal or soot against the glass. 5 long fingers. Too long. And it was dripping. Not water, but something thick and dark, like oil mixed with blood. I backed into the corner of the booth, heart pounding, chanting whatever verses came to mind. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, al-hayyul qayyum. My voice cracked. My eyes stung with fear. And then the door latch began to turn. I had locked it. I always locked it. But the latch spun slowly, quietly, like a hand was turning it gently, so I wouldn't notice until it was too late. I grabbed the taser and aimed it toward the door, even though I knew it wouldn't help. The door creaked open. Just a few inches. Then stopped. No one stepped in. But I swear to you, I felt something enter. The temperature dropped. My ears rang. My breath fogged up in front of my face, even though there was no draft. I looked down, and there it was. A pair of footprints, wet, bare, small, leading from the door to the back wall. But no one was there. I couldn't take it anymore. I radioed dispatch again. This time my voice broke mid-sentence. Post 47, requesting backup, something's in here. I repeat, something's inside the booth. No response. Then the monitor turned white, blinding white. The kind of light that sears through your eyes and burns the back of your mind. I covered my face, stumbling back. And through the static, I heard a child's voice. So fragile, but too close. Why did you lock me out? I fell, crashed into the chair. The Quran slid from the desk and landed near my feet. I grabbed it like a lifeline and began to recite every ayah I remembered. My lips moved faster than my brain. I didn't stop. Not until the lights returned. Not until the temperature lifted. Not until the booth was still again. I didn't leave at sunrise. I didn't wait for my replacement. I just ran. Left my report book behind. Left the taser. Left the salt. I got on my motorcycle and rode back to town like my life depended on it. Because deep down, I think it did. Lonnie met me at the door, eyes wide. You didn't even call. I collapsed into her arms. I think something followed me. That night, I bolted our bedroom door for the first time in years. But around 3 a.m., I woke to a sound. Knock, knock, knock. On the inside of my bedroom closet. It was 3:06 a.m. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, drenched in sweat. The bedroom was dark, except for the faint glow from the digital clock on the nightstand. The room was silent, but I knew what I'd heard. Knock, knock, knock. Coming from the closet. From inside it. Lonnie stirred beside me, half asleep. Mas, are you okay? I didn't answer. My eyes were locked on the closet door. I reached out slowly and turned on the lamp. The soft yellow light washed over the room. The door stood still. Nothing moved. I picked up the Quran from the nightstand. My voice trembled as I recited Surah Al-Falaq, then Anas, barely above a whisper. No more knocking. But I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called in sick. I couldn't return to the booth. Not after what I saw. Not after what came inside. But the silence at home didn't help. Lonnie tried her best, made breakfast, played soft music in the background, even laughed nervously as if laughter could push back the darkness. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. Not from the window. Not from the hallway. From the closet. That night, I placed a chair in front of it. A Quran on top. Salt across the threshold. I even wrote Allahu Akbar on a piece of paper and taped it across the handle. I lay down, praying sleep would come. It did. But so did the dream. I was back on the highway. Fog all around me. The sedan stood still on the shoulder, doors open. Inside sat 3 children. No faces. Just skin, gleaming and wet. One of them slowly turned toward me and spoke, not with a voice, but straight into my head. "You saw us. You heard us. Now you're part of it." I tried to move. Couldn't. My feet were frozen to the blacktop. The fog crawled up my legs like ice vines. "You left the door open," another whispered. "Now we'll never leave." I screamed in my sleep, woke with a gasp. My skin was cold, like I'd been outside all night. My mouth dry. My heart racing. Lonnie rushed in from the hallway. "Moss, what happened?" I looked at the closet door. The chair was knocked over. The Quran lay face down on the floor. The tape had peeled off, paper torn. But the worst part? There were wet footprints across the carpet, leading from the closet to my side of the bed. I knew then, this wasn't just a haunting. It was a contagion. Whatever lives on exit 47, it doesn't stay there. It attaches itself, follows, invades. It doesn't want to scare you. It wants to be with you. The next day, I met with Imam Nasir at the small mosque in town. I told him everything. He didn't laugh. He didn't call me crazy. Instead, he placed his hand on mine and recited a long du'a for protection. "Sometimes, these are not just spirits," he said. "They are shayateen, evil jinn. And when you open yourself with fear and curiosity, they enter." I asked him how to stop it. He said, "You don't stop it. You resist it. With zikr, with prayer, with every breath, every hour. You never forget Allah, even for a second." I went home with a new resolve. But I was too late. That night, Lonnie was already asleep when I came into the bedroom. The closet door was ajar. Just slightly. A cold draft kissed my neck. I stepped back. Then the light bulb flickered and went out. Total darkness. The knocking returned. Not just from the closet this time. From the walls. From under the bed. From inside the mirror. It was everywhere. And then I heard Lonnie scream. I rushed to her side. Her eyes were open, wide, frozen in terror. She was pointing toward the mirror. Reflected in it wasn't just us. There was someone else behind me. A child. No face. No eyes. Just standing there. Watching. I turned. Nothing. But the mirror still showed him. We left the house the next morning. Packed whatever we could fit in the car and drove to Lonnie's parents' place 2 towns over. I never returned to the booth. I quit. Filed a resignation by mail. Never looked back. But some things don't care where you run. Some things don't leave just because you want them to. 3 months passed. No more knocking. No more figures in the fog. Until last night. I was walking to the mailbox around dusk. The sun was bleeding into the horizon. And there, parked just past the street lamp, a black sedan. No lights. No license plate. No one inside. But as I stood frozen, the passenger door slowly creaked open. And I saw it. Just for a second. The faceless boy. Smiling again. It's been 6 months since I left the toll booth. I pray every day now. On time. No excuses. I keep my Quran near my bed. I recite Ayat al-Kursi before sleep and blow over my shoulders like the Prophet taught. But sometimes, just sometimes, when the house is too quiet, I still hear the knocking. And I still remember the words that echoed in that dream. "You saw us. You heard us. Now you're part of it."